Get going. Hello, everyone. Erica Wright here, and I am pleased to be joined by my friend Mike Eubank, who is the superintendent of Mid-America Technology Center down in Wayne. And we've got an election coming up soon, don't we?
We do have an election coming up soon. Looking forward to it.
So, for those of you out there, this coming Tuesday, which is what, the 12th, the 12th
August.
of August, right, is when the election is. And we wanted to hop on here with Superintendent Eubank to let him be able to tell our membership and people out there that are going to be voting in this election what exactly they're voting on. We've got some questions for him as well. And so we just want to be able to provide a resource to all of you to better understand what you're voting for on Tuesday. And that way you feel more encouraged and more confident in getting out to actually vote on Tuesday. Polls will be open from 7 to 7 at your normal voting location where you always vote. So let's kick it off by just letting you tell us what districts are going to be impacted by this. Who's going to see this on their ballot?
All right. So we serve 18 high schools and one dependent K-8 district. Those are Blanchard, Bridge Creek, Dibble, Elmore City-Pernell, Lindsay, Lexington, Noble, Newcastle, Purcell, Little Axe, Wayne, Wanette, Wynnewood, Maysville, Stratford, Whitebead, Washington, Paoli, and Pauls Valley. That's all of Garvin County, all of McLean County, parts of Pottawatomie, Cleveland, Pontotoc, Grady, and Stevens.
Awesome. So that's like 19 different districts, right? So there's a
Yes.
lot of people we're hoping will show up to vote for this this election on Tuesday. So why don't you go ahead and share with us and those who are watching, why are we doing this? What are we doing and why are we doing it?
Okay, what we are asking is our voters to take our current 1 mil of building fund and take it up to four out of the five that are available building fund. We're trying to solve two problems. The first is a waiting list. If you've had a student or neighbor, friend, family member that's attempted to come to Mid-America over the past 8 or 10 years, you've become knowledgeable about the concept of a waiting list. And what happens is our classes fill up pretty quickly. This whole idea of career and trade training, thanks to people like Mike Rowe, has not only become okay, but it's become preferred as a school of choice option for many of our students. So our classes fill up quickly and we go to a waiting list. And a waiting list is usually a nice way to say it's probably not going to happen this year. So we get to deliver a lot of good news in spring to students who have been accepted. And we also get to give a lot of bad news. We get to sit down and have some tough talks because for a lot of these students that we serve, it may be something that they've been planning on doing for their entire life. It may be something that grandpa and dad or mom and aunt or best friend, someone has done. They're familiar with that and they've chosen very specifically to enter that trade area. And so when we tell them as a 17 or 18-year-old, it's not going to happen, we deal with lots of disappointment, lots of occasional anger, and sometimes some regret. So part one is we simply want to say yes. We want those students who are trying to come to Mid-America, we want to say yes to those. The other problem we're trying to solve is a concept called service rate. So the State Department of VOTEC, State Department of Career Tech, the agency that works with us, with our director, they expect us to serve 27% of available juniors and seniors. Mid-America's overall service rate has been at 27 for decades now, but individually, schools like Lexington, Purcell, Wayne that are close to us have a much higher service rate in the 30s or 40s. Schools that are farther away, like Bridge Creek, Newcastle, and Blanchard, we typically serve about 15%. So we're only serving about half of the customers that we need to be able to serve. And those families and those students have chosen to be a part of this district. And myself, my leadership team, and my Board of Education would like to change that where we can increase that service rate and better serve our customers.
And so, man, I feel that. I've got one that's getting ready to start with you and the nerves that we had waiting to see if if he was gonna be accepted or not.
Right.
Um, it's real. And I would imagine that our employers within this region as
Oh,
well
yeah.
are looking forward to having more opportunities for skilled workforce.
Right. We are the workforce solution for Oklahoma. And just like Newcastle is supposed to be getting the largest hospital in the metro in the next 3 to 5 years. They're going to need thousands of employees. We would like for those employees to be students and clients that we've trained from this district that get to stay home, get to stay close, and go to work in that hospital, as opposed to recruiting in healthcare providers, nurses, all of those things that we train for from other areas of the state. So that's our job, our duty, and our calling is to prepare the workforce. And if that's what we do for our district very specifically, if there are jobs in our district that need people, that's what we do.
Okay, so next question would be, so you did a great job of outlining the why and why we're wanting to expand. And now, if you can dive a little more into the details of the what.
Right.
What are you going to, if this passes on Tuesday, what
Mhm.
will be happening with the money being sent to Mid-America from the taxpayers of the district?
Right. So back up a little bit and give a history lesson. Our school was formed and chartered in 1968, then under Superintendent Ken Carlton. And Ken was from Purcell. And as they met with those original schools, again, Olive Garden and McLean County, they were trying to pick a location, and they decided to divide the district up very geographically. So Mid-America's spot at the Wayne Payne exit was picked because of its centrality to all of our district. Well, an interesting thing then, when the year that school was built, Maysville, the city of Maysville, and the school of Maysville were larger in population than Newcastle. Garvin County had a population density of 31 the year the school was built. McLean was only 24 people per mile. Well, when we get the 2020 census, McLean County has tripled in population, and Garvin County went up one person per mile. So our school ran into a real crisis in that the majority of our population, the customers, clients that we serve, live north of the district of the current campus, but we were ineffectively serving them due to the distance to those schools. So our plans, if this passes Tuesday, is to begin building a duplicate campus, not a specialized campus, not a unique program campus, but very much a duplicate so that we can begin to affect that waiting list. If we have 70 students enrolled for 20 spots in cosmetology, duplicating that is the only solution to that waiting list. We need more spots. So we keep lots of data on our programs and enrollment trends. And from our North schools, it's very easy to pick out what 7 or so programs have been highly enrolled for the past 10 years. And with a yes, we would immediately begin looking at adding nursing programming. If we're talking about a North campus, we would start with CNA and LPN level nurse training. We would add cosmetology. We would add auto service, criminal justice, multimedia, electrician, and welding. Those are our most highly enrolled programs right now, especially from students to the north. And so that would immediately impact that waiting list. The next thing we would run into, everyone says, well, that's a great problem to have, is we would immediately have another waiting list because our service rate would increase and we would have to begin to talk about what program are we adding next. And we would definitely have that conversation. When we get these 7 or 8 kind of bread and butter programs established, we would be able to find out what are the needs within those communities, what are the interests, and where are the waiting lists. But that's what our plan A would be at this point.
So this North Campus, do you guys have a site for that yet? Like, where are you thinking this is going to be located?
So your viewers that are watching have seen a sign on near May Avenue and Highway 9 since the year 2000. We purchased 20 acres in 2000. Superintendent Dell and I purchased that with the goal of building a satellite campus primarily to serve our adult learners. And our current campus sits on 60 acres. So when we start talking about duplicating, we clearly don't have enough land. And so for the past couple of years, we've been in a search for land. We've located a piece of property that's at the intersection of Highway 9 and Highway 62. That's part of a TIF project in Blanchard. That land has continued to be available for us. We've worked with the developers and the owners to make sure that we have what I think is the best spot in that property. But that 60 acres would be where we plan to build that second campus.
Is Highway 62 right there where it splits off north to Newcastle and south to Blanchard, or is it further?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So 62, yes. If you take a left, you go to Blanchard. If you take a right, you go to Newcastle. And I believe it's 6, 8, and 11 miles from Blanchard, Newcastle, and Bridge Creek schools, who, again, students are going about 35 miles right now to get to class.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that is, you've done a great job of kind of explaining the need and kind of what the general plan is. I've got a list of questions for you that
All right.
I have kind of compiled from board members and patrons and voters from around the Mid-America District. So I'm going to throw these out there,
All
and
right.
hopefully you can do a good job of answering these so that people can feel really confident about their decision. So the first one, which is the one that I had a question about this myself,
Right.
and I've had a lot of people text this one in. Those of us that are supporting public schools in our bond elections, when those roll around, we're used to the language of a bond election,
Right.
right? And
Right.
what that means. But this is different. This is a millage increase.
Right.
So a lot of people, myself included, up until recently, didn't really understand the difference. So, um, an open-ended millage versus a bond with an expiration date. Why
Right.
do you do it that way? Kind of walk us through that process and why it's important to do it that way versus a bond and what that actually means to the voter.
Right. So another kind of history lesson, all 18 and of the high schools we work with are maxed out on general fund and building fund. They're all at 5 on their building fund. Mid-America, for the first 25 years we were in existence, when we were in the construction phase, we ran anywhere from 2 to 3, 4 to 5 those first 25 years while we were building that 60-acre campus. In 1995, we finished what then Superintendent Don May considered to be the final construction project. That campus was full and everything we ever needed. And so he, with the board's support, had an election to lower that millage back to 1. And that's worked well at 1. If you look at operation cost and maintenance for buildings, we've been fine. But our building fund millage was at 1. Well, if your building fund millage is at 1, the natural place to grow when you need to get into construction revenue is that building fund millage. If you're a school who had already maxed out your building fund millage decades ago, your only option, only opportunity are bonds. And so as our partner schools are growing, every one of them, I think in this year or in the next 2 years, will have a bond issue come up because they're all growing so fast.
Right.
Um, Technology centers historically don't use bonds because if I go after that bucket of money, all 18 or 19 of my schools, that affects their bonding capacity the next time they try to roll one up. And so it's kind of a gentleman's agreement we have to not go after that same bond. And as you mentioned, bonds are a set time limit. You say, we're going to be in this for the next 3 to 5 years. We're going to build very specifically a library and a baseball field, and it's going to cost this much money, and this is what it's going to look like. You have to, by law, be that specific on a bond. On building fund millage, if you've read the ballot, it lays out all of the things that building fund millage can be applied to. And it can be for maintenance, upkeep, renovation, construction. The big popular one that a lot of people are catching on is security costs. We have to, by law, list that all of those things that it could apply to, because over the next 5 years, decade, however long that 5 or 4 mills is in place, it could go to any of those. What my board and what I'm saying is we're going to use that money to build a North Campus. Now, the second part of that is our school has a history of choosing to lower that once the major construction phase is over. I've challenged people over the past few weeks as I've been doing town halls and meetings like this is to name a school that lowered their millage. Um, it's tough, and it has hampered our ability to grow quickly. We've gone into a mode of we must save money for 3 to 5 years before we can build something, and we've been good at that. But when we're talking about building a duplicate campus, that funding, that revenue source will not be adequate. So I know my board has stated frequently and repeatedly that when our major construction phase of this campus is over, they will lower it. There's a lot of trust involved in that, and I get it. Why would a school ever lower it? But I know my board feels that way. I have a very conservative, I have an amazing board. They want to be stewards of the tax dollars that we get. They take that very seriously. And when this campus is completed, I'm certain they would lower that back.
I think that I'm glad that you answered that because I think that that's kind of what people don't really understand is that,
Right.
A, if you guys do it on a bond, which we're all used to how that works, then
Right.
that screws up the bond capacity for
It,
everybody
yeah.
else to do any
And
build any other schools or whatever. So
it would be a lot higher tax increase too. We're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 a year. If that was a bond, it would be much more than that for a shorter amount of time, but a much higher tax rate.
gotcha. Okay. So you answered actually question one and two when we talked about the duration, you answered that. So let me move on to three. Somebody asked about millage revenue management.
Mhm.
So, as you go through this process of construction and utilizing the funds through the millage increase, what are your plans as a district for transparency? Will there be annual public report or audits provided? What are you guys going to do to provide taxpayers with basically a map of what's happening and where
Right.
we are?
Yes. So once we're uh, in operation on this project, building a campus, and um, that would, as with all schools, that would become part of our natural day-to-day operation is to be showing drawings, to be talking about plans, to be talking about expenditures. I work with the Board of Education just like all SUPs do, and there are things that we must and shall report, and there are audits we go through. But one thing that we've enjoyed at Mid-America is getting to show people the progress. We just finished an expansion to our 50-year-old main building. You got to sit in the meeting the other day in our brand new
Beautiful.
conference space. And it was so fun over that 18-month period to continue to show pictures of progress of construction and what was happening because people were excited. Our students were excited. Our staff was excited. And as moms and dads and family members pulled in to go to meetings, it was exciting. It's changed the climate of the place to be that proud of a building. So we look forward to getting to share updates and news. And I know that every city council meeting I go to and every chamber and Rotary meeting, people have lots of questions. Well, we've learned from this process that everyone pretty well has the same questions. So, our newspapers have been great to work with in this project. They've been so good about sharing the truth and sharing the facts. And that's who we mainly rely on. But we are getting better at this whole social media presence as well. And we look forward to getting to share all of that good news.
And my guess would be as you have updates and things, they'll probably be just loaded on your website, right? So
Right.
anybody
Yes.
who really
Yes.
wants to track it is going to be able to, or they can call
Right.
you, I guess.
Or stop by. Come to the
Yeah.
Twin Cities of Wayne Payne. I'd like nothing more than to give you a tour and show you what's going on.
Somebody brought up a good point the other day. Well, so for people who are watching, I think I mentioned earlier, my son's getting ready to start at the Wayne campus this year, and he's super excited. And we went down on the 29th for orientation, and it's just an amazing facility. But I didn't even think about that also provides facilities for the public around
Right.
in the area as well for larger meeting spaces and things like that. And that's an added benefit to communities too that I think people don't really think of beyond the obvious primary goal of educating students and getting them ready for the workforce. Um,
Right.
I just thought that was an interesting thing
Right.
that someone brought up.
We've hosted the ACT test for a couple of decades now, and so we doubled our capacity with that conference space for people wanting to take the ACT test. We've
Yeah,
hosted FHA banquets, we've hosted all kinds of agency and school groups already, and already have a pretty busy schedule this year on people that are wanting to take advantage of that space.
awesome. All right, let's move on to four.
Right.
How this is the impact on taxpayers. Basically,
Hmm.
this is a dollars question. Uh,
Right.
how will this millage increase affect the average homeowner property taxes? And can you
Hmm.
provide clear examples of different property values? I know this is
Yes.
also on your website, so people can go review that on the
Right.
FAQs on your website, but just give us a general summary.
Sure. So Worked close with Elizabeth Patrick, the county assessor in McLean County, because the math behind a millage is such a strange thing to try to learn and explain. Some of the very first posts that came out talked about a 300% increase. Well, it's a 300% increase and 11% of a thousandth of a dollar. So, in a
That's way too much
nutshell,
math for me.
the average home in McLean County, according to Miss Patrick, is about $200,000. So the assessment ratio in McLean County is 11%. So 11% of $200,000 is $22,000. That's the assessed value. You multiply a millage, 0.001 times that, you get $22.60. That's how much one mill costs for the average home in McLean County. So for the purposes of this argument, if we take that to 4 mills, that's going to be 80 some odd dollars, a $66 increase a year. So I've been saying it's one trip to Baker's Pizza, it's one trip to Joe's Pizza, it's 18 cents a day. It is a tax increase. And sitting down with my local senator, she was happy to lend her support and ideas to this and excited that we're getting to grow in this way. But she said, Mike, you must and shall say this is a tax increase. So in every one of our meetings and talks, we've tried to make clear this is a tax increase. It will be a tax increase of an average of $66 a year. But it is an increase. And I know many of our districts are in such a heavy growth phase with their school. It's another tax can be more than a lot of people want to even think about at this point. And we get that. One of the more popular questions has been, why now? Y'all been waiting for 25 years. And I've compared it to when you sit down and say, honey, can we afford to have babies? And you know the answer to that is if you wait till you can afford it, it's just not going to happen. And my last two superintendents have pursued this idea, but we've tried to find the right opportunity when our schools were all at a point where they could support it, where we were in a point where we felt like our voters could support it. And now with the waiting list getting to the size that it is, we just can't continue to wait. We need to find out if our voters want to do this or not.
All righty. Okay, next question. Which I think you may have mentioned this earlier, the spending scope, the list of uses in the proposition is broad.
Yeah, right,
So you listed all of the things that it can be used for.
right.
Um, and from what I understand from what you said earlier, because the question was, can the millage funds be used for items not mentioned in the language?
No,
No. So if it's not in the language, you can't just turn around and say, we're going to use this
right.
money to build a watchtower or
We're going to give
whatever.
all the administrators a pay increase or something. You can't. You
Right.
may
Okay.
only use it for building purposes according to statute. And
Okay.
so for us, that's building a campus.
Gotcha. Okay. Good deal. Let's see. And again, let me look at number 6. Sorry, everyone. I'm C3 and I can't see very well. Can these funds be used for salaries or benefits, or do they have to be spent on the capital improvements?
They may be spent on capital improvements. There are instances where, again, security was specifically listed. If you have maintenance or IT technology people that you choose to pay through that, I believe you can. We use our general fund for those purposes. I think it's allowable, but not something we've made a practice of doing.
Okay. Um, the proposition, which again, you may have answered this, but I'm just going to ask it. The proposition says that the funds may be used for certain purposes instead of shall.
Right.
Why use is the use of may or shall because you're listing, hey, here's all of the capital expenditures we
Yes.
use for this.
Yes.
That way,
And
because if you said
so
shall, you would have to use it for all of that, right?
correct. And we had to pay a lawyer to write that ballot up. And our attorney had to make sure that it was in alignment with statute. So yes, all of those may be used. And you're right. If they said shall, we would be restricted to making sure we hit every one of those check boxes. Again, we plan on building a school. Um, our current campus is maintained with building fund and general fund already. And so at this point, there wouldn't be a need to jump into all those may areas. We just need to be able to afford to get some walls up and get a roof on and have a school building.
Well, and if statute says that all of those that are listed under the May is what
Hmm.
you have to spend it on, then, and you're not going off of what's listed in the May list, then
Right. That would
I
be
think that,
problematic. Yeah.
right, exactly. Okay, let's see. Oh, two more questions.
Woohoo.
Um, community. I think you already answered this. The question was community priorities. The question was what specific projects, programs, or upgrades will be funded first if
Right.
it passes? But you mentioned that earlier. Obviously, you're building a second campus in the north, but you listed the priorities of the programs that are the most popular
Right.
that really need an additional campus first, and then you'll move on from there.
Right. Our goal again, we need at least five programs to be able to technically call it a second campus with our agency. We are looking at that 7 or 8 range is what we would say. Okay, we're serving that customer better, and then after that, to be able to have discussions about local interest and needs. A couple of popular programs that have been mentioned over the past 5 or so years have been aviation. There's not a single airport in our district. Part of the Goldsby Airport is kind of on the edge of our district, but we don't have an airport, so we're not training people to go directly into the aviation industry. We do have a lot of students that would have the ability to do that if the Tinker service area. But if we were at a North campus, maybe that makes more sense. Maybe there's enough interest to have that class. Another popular one has been culinary. We've never had a culinary program because we've never had businesses coming to us saying we need students trained in that. But those are high interest areas. So once we get established with a waiting list solution, then we could have those talks about what locally available programming could happen.
Awesome. And again, I think I'm going to move on to nine. But this is just a really good wrap up, just to reemphasize, because the question is there's two questions here about economic and workforce impact. How
Hmm.
will this directly benefit students in the local workforce? And are there partnerships with local businesses that will expand because of this expansion of the technology center? You mentioned that earlier, but this is your
Right.
chance, I guess, to go ahead and close us out with
Okay.
emphasizing the benefits for not only our students, but also our businesses and our local economies.
Right. So 100% of what any of the 29 technology centers do in the state is serve their local districts. That's why as you drive to different schools, you will see some different programming. If you go to High Plains, they have windmill technician program. We don't have a windmill technician program because there are no windmills in our district. And so all of our classes that we fund and offer that our board selects as needed programs have to directly serve business and industry partners in our district. When they stop serving that, when the numbers that come back to us on students getting jobs related fall below a certain threshold, we're no longer able to keep classes. So in the past decade, we've seen 4 or 5 classes go away. We've seen 7 or 8 classes come on just due to the changing job markets in McLean and Garvin counties and our surrounding areas. So our main role is workforce development. That's what we do. We bring in high school students primarily. We also serve adult students. We also have our pro group, which their number one role is to work with businesses and industry in our area to find out what training they need. We do firefighter training. We do lots of safety training. We do tons of CNA, CMA. We have nurses in and out of there all the time, either getting that first job or getting a promotion due to certification. We have a testing center that is busy almost 24/7. There are constantly people coming in and going out and getting their certifications and improving their life and lifestyle. So that's what we do. Our customers are not only the students that we serve, but they're also the businesses and industry partners that we serve. And being an electively driven school, students have to choose to come to us. No one is forced to come get a trade. No one's forced to come get a skill or license. And so we have to be customer based. And this is an area where we have not been good servants of our customers. We have not served that northwest corner of our district very well, and we would like to see that improve.
Well, and that my husband and I used to own a construction company and commercial
Hmm.
construction. So I know all too well how difficult it can be to find
Right.
workers in certain areas. And that's just one of the things that's so important about this program for our area. And I think a lot of us forget, like you mentioned, that this isn't just for high school juniors and seniors.
Right.
This is for adults to be able to come back. And
Right.
I think I heard the other day that even once you've graduated from high school, you have up until you're 21 to be able to come for free. Is that correct?
Free until your 22nd birthday in our
Oh,
full-time programs. Yes, and our 10-month full-time, primarily built around the high school students, but yes, free
no.
until your 22nd birthday because you've already paid your property tax.
Right.
Historically, our board and the state board of career tech have considered that you're buying into the school, you're doing your part, so tuition has been covered. Our short-term programs and our specifically for adult programs often will have a tuition fee, but for those full-time programs, it's free until 22.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up. First of all, thank you so much. Is there anything else that we didn't ask or cover that you think is important, or do we hit it all?
Um, a popular question has been how soon.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this one continues to get me in trouble because I'm the total optimist when it comes to construction and things like that. We're working closely with the city of Blanchard to get 55th Street, which is the access to this 300 plus acre area. They have been flagging and I think are beginning to work on road beds, which would allow us to begin worrying about construction. So best case scenario, if the weather and supply chain and contractors and everyone plays nice, I could see us begin to break ground in the spring of 26. I say you can build buildings in about 18 months. My general contractors laugh at me and say, no, it usually takes 2 or 3 years. So, um, could we have classes in the fall of 27? In my optimistic brain, absolutely. Will that realistically happen? Probably not, because it will rain or snow or something will happen in between then. But that would be our goal, is to as quickly as we can begin to get programming in place. We're excited about that. We've been talking about this for so long. We've played out so many scenarios on how do we, get things rolling. It's time to go. It's time to build and time to have a school.
Awesome. Well, yeah, as somebody who owned a construction company, that does make me giggle a little bit. Also,
Yeah.
we're in Oklahoma, so you never know what
18 months.
weather. But hey, I love the glass half full positive approach and
Yeah.
all of that. So, just as a reminder, as we close out for everybody, this election is this upcoming Tuesday, August the 12th. You can vote from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at your local uh, voting place where you always go. If you don't know where that is, some of them have been changed in the last few years. You can just Google the Oklahoma voter portal, log in with your information and find that out. And then the Rural Schools Coalition on Tuesday will be tracking that vote and we will announce to you within the group and all of that, the outcome of this election. And tell us again what districts so we can close it out with people. If you live in any one of these districts he's about to name, haul your heinies to the voting booth on Tuesday, please.
Ready?
Yep.
Blanchard Bridge Creek, Dibble, Elmore City-Pernell, Lindsay, Lexington, Noble, Newcastle, Purcell, Little Axe, Pauls Valley, Paoli, Washington, Whitebead, Stratford, Maysville, Wanette, Wayne, and Wynnewood.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, one final thing is as we push this out, we're going to give you guys also a link to the
Yeah.
frequently asked questions. So you'll have that document to review. And we will also send out an email if you have questions that we did not cover tonight.
Right.
I'm not going to be the person to answer that because I didn't even know this was on the ballot until last week. So we're going to give you an email where you can email the team at Mid-America Direct and ask
Right.
that question before you go in to vote on Tuesday. And I'm sure they will be diligent
Absolutely.
about manning that inbox in the
Mhm.
next 2 days, all the way up until 7, I guess,
All right.
on Tuesday. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching. I am Mike. I'm going to stop the recording and then we can wrap up our call after we get off the recording. So
All
thanks
right.
everyone and go vote on the 12th.